Hey everyone, I'm CamelCoder, and we're back with week 2 of this code learning journey. And this week has been all about JavaScript still. I've been getting a little bit into Code Wars, which has been fun. I'm still just doing stuff at 8Q. I'm not sure how that's QYU. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but it's fun to do those. To do some of those challenges on the side to switch it up. So let's dive into the time allotment, how I've been doing time-wise. Let's see here. Oh, that's the wrong... There we go. I started using keybinds to switch these things around. It's going to take a little time getting used to. So, I'm not happy with how much time I was able to devote to learning this week. So as you can see here, it's 13 and a half hours and my goal is 15 hours. And I don't really have a valid excuse for this because it's not... Last week was understandable, like I even exceeded the goal last week and that was with lots of midsummer stuff going on. But this week there were no such... barriers in the way. So the issue this week has been procrastination, basically. Like knowing that, okay, I should get started with coding now, but then now I'm just going to check Reddit, I'm just going to check YouTube, stuff like that. I'm just going to check Discord. So I'm aware that it's an issue and I'm going to be tackling it this week. So I'm already very happy with my time how studying has been going today. This is being filmed on Monday, the week after. But at least one thing that I was happy with time-wise is that even if the time spent on some days was very low, like here it's 25 minutes, 31 minutes, there was still something going on. So I was still doing something. So I'm very happy that the day was not at 0. So it could be worse. It could be worse. So let's see here. What else have we been up to? We've been learning about I've been learning about event handlers more and more about asynchronous events. And asynchronous events, some of these words that you have on your to learn list that are like, okay, I need to tackle this, I need to tackle this. And they sound really scary. Like asynchronous event sounds very scary. But now that I've done experiments and projects with it, it's like, well, this was not as scary as it seemed at first. It's just doing things in a non procedural order, and that's it. So it's like, well, why was I so scared about this? And I'm guessing the next big thing that I'm going to be learning about this week, and I'm starting later today, is closures. So it remains to be seen. Is closures going to be one of those things like asynchronous events, where it's going to be like, oh, why was I afraid of this? Or is it actually going to be, oh shit, this is actually really tricky, and it's going to take a while to get my head around it. Well, we'll see how that goes. So what have we been up to? Let's see here. This week, the projects that we've been working on. So what was the keybind again? Was it this? There we go. So this is one of the things. This is just very basic learning about event handlers and DOM manipulation and stuff like that. So this here it updates the coordinates of the mouse in real time while it's hovering above this image. And also here's a list of images, and when you hover your mouse over them, they get unblurred. And how it's done here is that there's a blurred and an unblurred version of this image, and then when you mouse over it, it just switches it to the other file. Another way you could do this is just have a class that blurs it. which would be actually way simpler. But this is how they decided to do it in the book. I'm guessing this was before the Blur CSS class was available. So, well, Blur isn't a CSS class, but if, yeah, you know what I mean. So this is a more basic solution. So let's see what else. Okay, so on the latter half of the week, I've been learning about function declarations versus function expressions, which sounded very easy at first. It's like, okay, well, this way it's just the difference between putting it in a variable or not, right? Well, no, that's not how, that's not the only difference. There's a lot of implications here, especially when it comes to learning about first class objects. That functions in JavaScript are first class objects, meaning they can be stored in variables. They can be used as arguments when calling functions, and they can be returned from functions as well, which sounds like, okay, well, using functions as an argument when calling another function was something that I've done before. So it's like, I felt at first, well, yeah, whatever. I know this already, but no, I did not know all the implications of this already. It went way deeper than I thought, especially when it comes to returning references to functions. That completely blew my mind, what you can do with that. So let's switch to, let's see here. This should switch to, yeah, to the code. So this is a super simple just demonstration of something. So this is probably super basic to you guys, something that you learned in like week 0 or something. But to me, this was crazy how that stuff like this is possible, and it seems so useful. So here's a function, add n, takes one argument. And then inside that function, we have a function expression, which is n plus x is the content of this. And then what's stored in here is like the reference to the function. And then then it returns it outside of this function as well. So if I do another function expression here, this line, var add2 equals add n2, we essentially created, well, not really, but kind of like for practical purposes, we kind of created a new function in one line with a different context or different content than what existed before. And this seems so simple, but it's so crazy that it's possible to do stuff like this. And I thought this was really neat. So then if we call this function here, we get, so 102, 12 and 102. So I thought this was super cool. And the other example of that is here. So here we have a function, process passengers. So this whole thing is about plane processing people going on a plane and stuff like that. So it has a parameter test function. And then here we call a test function, but there's no function called test function. This is just a parameter name. This is just a placeholder. And then we have this kind of core with fill in the blanks here with the arguments you send to it. And then you just send different function names to it. And then depending on what you send to it, of course, it calls the different functions. And I thought that was also one of those. This is crazy. This blew my mind. situations. So I thought the ability to do this is really cool. Like call a function that doesn't even exist. You just call a parameter function. Well, you are calling a function that exists, but you know what I mean. Inside the context of this, if you would call this without an argument sent to this function, then this would just be like an error. So that was, this is mind blown. So what else? Oh yeah, we did the mole game. Where did I put the mole game? So if I need to remember the hotkeys. Is it open now? Yes. Okay, there we go. So this is a thing where I followed a tutorial. Very simple, just using event handlers and stuff like this. So you need to, it's whack-a-mole. You need to click the camel. It looks sometimes like it kind of gets stuck, that it doesn't update, but that's just because it randoms in which square it's gonna land. And sometimes it randoms the same square 2 times in a row. And then your final score is 21. And then you cannot bug it by trying to restart it while it's going on. It will just reset the game state and update this info accordingly. Yes, so that was really cool. Yeah, since I only did 13 and a half hours, I didn't do much further than this. But it was a very fun week. I feel like what I learned was very interesting. So, the upcoming stuff I'm going to be learning about next week is going to be closures and scope. I already know some basics about scope, about some basics. And one thing that that's quite interesting is that in a lot of the tutorials I've been following, people are very keen on using global variables in JavaScript, which is really strange. I understand it's super practical, right? But also dangerous. And when I learned some Python like 10 years ago, some very basic Python, like I became maybe a third of where I am at the moment with JavaScript. I was taught that, okay, doing global variables is basically a sin. You should never do global variables, and you should format your code around not doing global variables because it has so many downsides. So it will be interesting to learn about, like, are these tutorials just following bad practices, or is it somehow more okay or more acceptable to use globals in JavaScript? Well, we'll find out what the answer is to that one next week. And we're also going to tackle another some game project. I think the next one is I can't remember what it was, but it was some kind of arcade game, so where you actually control it with the arrow keys and stuff like that. So it should be a little bit more advanced than what we've been doing so far. So if you made it this far, thank you for watching. And are you maybe you're working on some projects yourself? If so, feel free to let me know what you've been working on, and in the comments below. And I'm looking forward to fixing my issues when it comes to procrastination, and I hope you all have an excellent week. Camel out.